Yeah, we're back for another one. And another one. Yeah. Woo.
Ignore the fact that I'm wearing the exact same outfit I was wearing last night when I recorded live. Just ignore that. It's neither here nor there. Can you tell I'm self-conscious about it? All right, go ahead.
Yeah, you're starting to look like Eddie Kingston, man. What's going on?
Yeah.
Rocking the tank top, backwards
Especially
hat.
right in the shoulder areas where I really look like it. What the fuck is going on?
It sounds like nonsense. My cat is found a rock inside the hardwood floor. He's batting it around as if it's a real cat toy. So
sounds like a spanking's in order in my book.
Yeah. So stop buying your cat's toys and just throw rocks on the ground. They'll play with them. Hi, everybody. Welcome to a meaty man coordinating, an NXT 2.0 exploring, AEW 2.0 exploring, Grandslam smacking episode of the Brothers of Discussion. We're talking the boys of generations past. Big E becoming a locker room captain and dive into the newest and most depressing, in a long series of depressing stories from Dark Side of the Ring. That and anything else, time allowing. Matt, Josh Roberts would say, with a 60-minute time limit. Matt, it's been a hot, spicy week of wrestling. Cats are treating rocks like toys, and I'm fresh out of watching Candyman in the theaters, the remake from Monkey Paw Production Studios, and let me tell you, no bullshit. When I got out of a movie at 10 p.m., man, it was dark out. No kidding, there's a honeybee on my windshield, and I was a little freaked out about the synergy with that. Matt, how are things over at your place? Are there any harbingers of evil on your windshield?
No, it was a fucking nightmare of a day. Kids wouldn't nap when they're supposed to nap. I couldn't get my daughter to eat McDonald's.
She's a Burger King.
First
Burger
time.
King kid.
No, she's never had Burger King. That's not this household.
Oh.
But we're trying to collect all those Disney Happy Meal toys, so we have started going there. Maybe
we meaning you and your wife, not you and your daughter.
Why? It's a family trip. She wants Pooh Bear and Minnie Mouse, and I would like Mickey, and I think we probably already missed. Anyway, so I'm just, what a nightmare of a day it was, is I couldn't even get a 2-year-old to have a bite of a hamburger today, which is, I feel like that might be one of the worst parts of the day, but also right before I started making dinner, after this nightmare of a day, I got Teddy on my side. I got Addie on my side. She was coloring by herself. Teddy and I were getting ready to make dinner. And then I knocked my goddamn coffee on the ground because I knew I needed to stay up for this. I accidentally smacked it with my arm. Coffee went flying all over the kitchen. Scared my 2-year-old. I had to put the 4-month-old down, and he didn't like that. So then it was just, I was back to normal, and then I just completely set everything off again until the wife got home to save me. So it was a nightmare of a day. And
dark side of the domestic life, huh?
This was certainly, if anybody has their significant other and you've had the conversation, if kids are on the table, here's some fuel for the opposite decision of yes. I don't know why I had to say it like that. But
let's just get another cat. Let's get another cat to get rid of these rocks in the dining room.
Buy some condoms, stat. All right.
Let's get into this show, man. Where can the beautiful people find us? Yeah.
It's at BOD Podcast on Twitter and BODpodcast.com and brothersofdiscussion.com. Mike, I had a conversation today with the lawyer and the federal government. We are so close. Just a letter away.
From getting subscriptions from the government?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. for finally being copyrighted and trademarked. We're this close. Just
Sick.
mention more. So it was a funny conversation I have today with a guy telling me, now you can't trademark wrestling podcasts. And I was like, I'm not trying to. It's like speaking to the federal government about that. And I was like, no, it's the full thing. And he's like, well, you could trademark Brothers of Discussion, but you can't trademark wrestling pod. Like those words can't be put together. Nobody can. Nobody can trademark a full brand with those words. So
yeah, I get that.
Right. I was like, I'm not. It's the full. Like if I sell a T-shirt, I'm gonna have the Brothers of Discussion Wrestling podcast. But then they were like, yeah, so you could put that on the T-shirt because nobody can trademark that. And I went, oh yeah, I guess that makes sense. So if we can't, nobody else can. So there's that. We got that going for
us. Was this an attorney with a lot of papers falling out of his briefcase? And
yeah, you could hear him in the background. A lot of scrambling, running around, signing papers that are midair. Either that or you had a really good Foley artist in there with him, just doing helicopter sounds.
Wow.
All right, enough of the Foley artist jokes. Let's jump into Big E. Mike, becoming our, can we just call him a WWE champion? Do we have to call him the heavyweight? Because I like it. It just feels more right to just say Big E is the WWE champion. And that's that. It's just
maybe the fewer adjectives, the better, right?
Yeah.
Because now we just know it's the World Wrestling Entertainment Champion instead of having to add caveats to it. I like it.
Yeah, now you're confusing it though. There's all that world and the wrestling. There's no wrestling. This is all entertainment. No. I do like actually your first note here, and I figure you should be the one to say it. I hadn't thought about it yet, but there's a lot of unique elements to Big E winning the title. Besides us, just since we started the show, he's been one of our favorite wrestlers to the point, Mike, where I vowed to eat a Big E. I'll just say it, a Big E cock cake.
Yeah.
If he did not win Money in the Bank, and this was 3 years ago, I believe, and he did not win the Money in the Bank. But even at that time, I was so sure. When Kofi was going for the title, I was very happy for Kofi, but in the back of my mind, I was thinking, yeah, Big E's my champion on the New Day. And this is it. I finally got it. All of those years, all of the episodes we've done where we keep asking the WWE to make Big E our WWE champion, it finally happened. But yeah, Mike, I figured, like I said, I wanted you to take it away with some of the better details here.
No, we've had so few examples of, black superstars getting the top prizes that a lot of firsts are going to start, collecting here. Thankfully, thankfully, we'll just leave it at that. So not only is, Big E essentially becoming the, fourth major black champion, after Rock, Kofi, and Bob, we're actually getting a transition from a black champion to a black champion. For the men, that's the first time that ever happened. But I will say that, Bianca taking it from Sasha would be the actual first time it happened. But yeah, we're going to talk about Dark Side of the Ring just to kind of juxtapose like what things used to look like 20 years ago and what they look like now. A locker room that, Undertaker is, grinding his molars into dust with all this hatred that he has and calling all these guys soft, but it's just a totally different mentality. And I think Big E's right there in the middle, at the forefront there, being a supportive guy, getting support, from all branches of professional wrestling, even people outside of WWE, from all sorts of different entertainment mediums, people, reaching out and congratulating him for becoming champion. This is a guy he's looked at as a locker room captain, somebody who has obviously learned under Kofi's wing, about leading by example. And, you can use your voice, but you want to, set good habits and, um, um, I guess for newer people, it's maybe okay, Undertaker, to, play video games instead of, doing debauchery. It's okay to maybe prioritize family instead of debauchery. This is a guy, one of the first people that he got to speak with was Brody Lee's family. Reach out to them, and they were really touched, and they kind of live near each other. They, speak all the time. And so Big E, very humble, self-effacing, even with, how outspoken he is in character. But I mean, this is a guy who cares about Brody's family. This wasn't just, they were buddies in the locker room and they tussled once in a while. They made real connections. And I mean, this is a guy who, one of his big pet projects was Our Heroes Rock, about Black history, about heroes in Black history, about making it, a more digestible, story in cartoon form, making it fun. I just, it's great that he won because we love the character, but the man is such a hard worker. This is so well deserved. This is just fantastic booking decision by WWE, and I'm really excited to see where Big E takes this, man. I wasn't trying to steal every single talking point, but I think I got all of them. Man, did you have any for Big E's big moment here?
Well, it is to get into like the politics of pro wrestling and like pulling the trigger now, is so many huge things were happening with AEW. It is funny that these things are always dangled in front of us to always keep us like waiting. And are we finally going to see like a cash in? When is this big moment happening for Big E? And I say they dangle them in front of us so that we continue to tune in. But the politics of all of this is WWE absolutely needed to do something to get us excited about their program again. And I just think it's funny that they do dangle this kind of stuff in front of us instead of just pulling the trigger, or things could get out of hand, or they lose the momentum or something like that. And they do seem to always fuck up the timing. But this felt like the timing was controlled by a completely different company. And the timing of it, you could definitely argue it came out of nowhere. And Big E announcing that he's going to cash in on Twitter was almost it's akin to WCW saying Mankind's going to win the WWF title back in the day. It had me tuning into Raw as appointment TV for the first time all summer. I'm not sure. Is it still summer? Is it officially fall?
I'm wearing shorts right now. I'm calling it so.
I mean, I'm doing my Eddie Kingston get up right now. I'll be doing Dexter Lumis starting next week because it's going to be in the 60s for a high. But Eddie Kingston now, Dexter Lumis in my Henley next week. Yeah. But yeah, I guess it's just funny to me to get back to my point is how often they fuck things up. Dealing with the Money in the Bank, dealing with some of our favorites being close to the main event and just not getting it right. And finally things were taken out of their hands and they needed to give something huge for us all to be excited about. And it just feels like, give WWE credit for having their champions lined up, in the right way. I think we all wanted Bobby Lashley. We did want the Hurt Business to stick together. And then we're all huge fans of Big E, and to see him win in the entire pro wrestling world, just turn around and go on his social media, speak to who follows them, and speak to Big E through social media, so many different folks. And this just really lifted up the entire business. And it's like, is this sort of a fuck up by WWE by waiting this goddamn long? I mean, to go back to my point earlier with how much we love Big E, and I could have pegged him as the Money in the Bank champion 3 years ago when this show started. The show started before then, but 3 years ago when we were talking about that Money in the Bank, and I still wanted him to win, and we had to wait this long. What the fuck is going on? And they finally got it right when, again, I think
I don't think that this is too late because this is still a pretty big celebratory moment. It could have absolutely been earlier, but I would compare it to like a Braun Strowman, right? Braun Strowman when he won, that was way after he was at his peak, and it was just kind of like, oh well, obviously he's a transitional champion. He's not going to hold that belt for very long. That was 100% botched. This could have been earlier, but like listening to Big E interviews, he said, for it to take this long, it feels earned. So yeah, it could have happened sooner, but this feels earned. All the hard work I put in.
I'm sure he wouldn't have turned down a championship
years
ago. I'm just saying, and I'm not saying it had to happen earlier. I'm saying this felt good because any decision making was taken out of WWE's hands because they felt like they needed to pull the trigger. So
can I just say I'm really tired of people saying this was just a ratings pop. Like that's what wrestling is, bro. Like Rosario Dawson parachuting in, that was a ratings pop. Who cares? If it makes you watch the show, I don't really see why it's looked at as a negative. Like, I mean, that's why we get Snoop Dogg and Shaq, and that's why we announce big world championship. I mean, we announced the Bob Lashley versus Randy Orton championship match that was really good for 20 minutes. They beat the shit out of each other. I'm not. I don't know. I just wouldn't be so negative with why are they doing a ratings pop like.
Not saying they did. I'm saying it's good that everything was taken out of WWE's hands. I'm not complaining that this happened in any way, shape, or form. I'm saying thank God everything was taken out of their hands. Whatever their plan was gone. And Big E can be champion now because, as I said, I wanted him to be champion sooner than now. So, yeah, not saying like this is a complaint. I can't believe they went for a ratings pop.
Well, I just want to keep this like as positive as possible because to juxtapose it with Dark Side of the Ring, and their latest offering here about the plane ride from hell.
Well, yeah, we're going in two different directions on this conversation, so I think it's good we move on.
Yeah. It's this. When WWE was doing a European tour. God, what was it? Was it about 19 years ago? 2002. Sending these guys, to and fro. This is the plane ride home. Watch and listen to the whole episode. We use the word debauchery 3 times. That's what this was.
Debauchery or debauchery? I thought it was debauchery.
I thought it was debauchery. I'll let you use debauchery. I'm taking debauchery with my first round pick. But I think we were kind of led to believe, Matt, you said they had a cartoon about it, that it was just...
let me throw in there. What I wanted to say with that was that I've never seen this cartoon because I
have seen a clip of it.
So I couldn't confirm if there even was one, but I saw somebody post on Twitter that it had been removed, but I didn't know it even exists. So I wanted to throw that out there.
So, what happens on this plane is just god awful. Like, essentially in Dark Side, they talk about not only are the wrestlers like getting hammered and like ordering drink after drink after drink, getting impatient, and they stop ordering drinks and just start making their own drinks. The talking heads on the program, Mike Chioda, Rob Van Dam, Tommy Dreamer, start telling you how common it was for them to basically roofie each other.
Can I say, while you bring up Mike Chioda, I think he thought he was coming into a big old joke episode of Dark Side of the Ring. The way that he responded to all of the questions.
Yeah, have you watched Dark Side of the Ring? Like Chioda, it's not going to look good in the editing room.
That's a name I think is getting forgotten only because his attitude just did not match where his head should have been at. But go ahead. I feel like that's a name that's being missed. But go ahead.
WWE had their a cartoon on this, and they basically boiled it down to the guys having a few too many, and Brock Lesnar trying to throw Kurt Hennig through an airplane, and they thought that it was going to crash. So that kind of, sort of, was something that could have happened. But the much worse part was Ric Flair walking around, styling and profiling, as Tommy Dreamer put it, naked and trying to get the flight attendants to touch his penis, without their consent, of course. So I guess, WWE absolutely had to remove the cartoon version of this because it's way worse than I think we were obviously led to believe. This led to WWE firings. Scott Hall let go. Kurt Hennig let go.
At the time, right?
Yeah, at the time. And then I think so many of the lines that really pop out, as a viewer are, I think you wrote it in here, told to no sell what was going on. If you want to jump in on that no sell portion.
Yeah, I guess the reason I threw that in there is that was one of the most disturbing parts. The whole thing, top to bottom. But Terry Reynolds was told by Dustin Rhodes on multiple occasions, even the documentarians, of Dark Side of the Ring stopped, and very rarely do they jump in and question. You're told to no sell. I'm guessing they probably did one of these. You're told to no sell quite a bit when it comes to, I guess, interactions that become sexual with these pro wrestlers. And her response was that it happened all the time. Was that, I guess, this type of thing would just, it was weekly, if not daily, for her. And I guess she was numb to it, which, for the documentary, she gets that line in there, but how disgusting is it? Is that it happened so often that she was numb to it. And, the things that she was told to no sell were one of Dustin Rhodes. He was singing to her on the plane, and then I guess he asked her face to face to no sell this moment. It made her very uncomfortable, and it's something where this is a gentleman putting a woman in a situation where she's not comfortable, and she's being told face to face to not say anything, just let it happen. Which, those words, how close do we have to get to rape before you're looking at a situation of somebody who's, especially with how built these guys are. And we're going to talk about Brock Lesnar here in a second, but they are owning or controlling a sexual situation, and the woman involved, who of course Terry is much smaller, is told to say nothing, but of course the words they used were no sell to make it more about wrestling, I guess, to make it like, oh, it's just a part of the business, which is what is scary. It's not keep your mouth shut, it's no sell, which basically means it's industry practice for these types of things, like what Brock Lesnar did, which was present himself nude to Terry. And again, she just walked away from the situation as the way she described it and did a no sell. But sexual assault. And she was asked to not say anything. That's the situation. Mike, we have Brock Lesnar coming up to some pretty big championship matches with Roman Reigns. I think we're all good with Ric Flair here on this show. We were good on Ric Flair a few years ago. The WWE has parted ways.
When you say good with, you mean we've.
Oh, right. Yeah, we were done watching Ric Flair, is what I mean to say. Yeah, a few years ago. Like, we never needed to see him again. And for this stuff...
I think, the confidence of Tommy Dreamer telling that Flair story of Flair, helicoptering his penis, and he's like, this is the sense of humor that we had, and it's just kind of, I guess, just kind of dismissive of it.
Right.
Even in 2021,
So what I'm getting at is Flair. This should be it for the pro wrestling world. Tommy Dreamer, this should be it for the pro wrestling world. Brock Lesnar, I have no problem saying it. We're doing, if this isn't the end of Brock Lesnar after this, we're doing the exact thing that JR got stuck with at the end of that documentary, where, again, the guys running the documentary asked JR, they threw this into the Dark Side of the Ring episode and said, with everything that happened, you already mentioned Kurt Hennig getting let go, Scott Hall gets fired, and nothing happened to Ric Flair. So in the documentary, they ask to JR, who takes the blame for this entire situation. He says this was his job, even though that job shouldn't exist, to take care of grown men. He takes the blame, is asked, why didn't Flair get in trouble? And he says he doesn't know. Are we playing the same game with Brock Lesnar because he makes so much money that we're just going to go?
Well, he didn't say he didn't know. He also said he was a made man.
Right. So that's where I'm going with Brock Lesnar. He's going to bring in so much money, he's going to head on over to Saudi Arabia for another crown jewel, and no punishment for Brock because he's Brock. I mean, you could watch SmackDown today, and he was all over the opening segment because they showed a complete replay of what happened last week, because Brock Lesnar is big money for them. So I guess what I almost titled this episode is how to, like, where to, I wanted to just say, has pro wrestling culture changed? And a lot of people have said yes today, that pro wrestling culture is getting better. It is changed in a far more, impressive degree if Brock Lesnar was let go after that episode. If we're not just talking about a WWE network show that nobody watched, got removed, whoop-de-doo, there's got to be consequences for this stuff. The other show we do, Mike, is Red Wings Rant for the NHL, and we talked about a kid who is influenced by one thing or another, but his NHL career is over, as it should be, because they need to teach the younger kids coming up that, there isn't just this, if you're good enough at hockey and you make mistakes, you can still make it in the NHL. At some point, they need to set the example that these sexual assaults, taking advantage of women, taking advantage of someone smaller than you, just has to stop. And the examples need to start being set with guys that aren't 1,000 years old and are already out of the business, and nobody's going to give two shits if we never see Tommy Dreamer again anyway. I don't tune into Impact Wrestling on a weekly basis. So, Tommy Dreamer, he should be gone. Brock Lesnar's the one that changes pro wrestling. We want to talk about all day today on Twitter, people saying that things are better. That's your change. And it's not better when he's winning the title in a couple of months and he's our champion and everybody's completely forgotten about this.
Yeah, it definitely would feel hypocritical for this to air and WWE to still reward Brock for that. Because we're not about to get a public apology or any of that kind of stuff, putting him through the, politically correct ringer. I don't think that's going to happen. I think looking at Big E becoming champion this week and looking at this Dark Side of the Ring from 20 years ago, and what high regard, that Attitude Era was held. I can't get over Undertaker talking so condescendingly about what the locker room looks like now. And I mean, when they talk about Dark Side of the Ring in this era, they always refer to them as the boys. And the boys, for me, is probably one of the scariest parts, because you talked about no cell being, well, this is just industry speak. And when you call it the boys, that refers to the boys being boys. And that verbiage is an excuse for them to get away with whatever they want because they're just boys being boys. And it doesn't mean that, it means that there's no accountability for it. It means that they're allowed to get away with what they call pranks or their sense of humor or, taking advantage of their, physical power over another person, and it's just the boys being boys. And I got to say, Big E he's such a 180, from stuff like that. I can't imagine any of those assholes on that plane, reaching out to, the widowed family of a brother. I can't imagine them putting out something like Our Heroes Rock. I can't imagine them just, having that real sense of altruism, because these are just pieces of shit. Like the way these guys acted on this plane, and I don't know. It really bums me out because this stuff gets to keep quiet for so long. It was a fucking cartoon by WWE. It takes basically a 40-minute YouTube video with some marginal production value to kind of help bring this to light, and it's an important thing to bring to light. And I'm really glad these guys are doing this. But I just when you watch this, you're really bummed out, and you're like, man, I don't ever want to meet my heroes. And thankfully, just to not make that such a universal statement, Big E comes along, and that seems like a hero I want to meet. So if Brock wins, that is totally hypocritical. But at least people like Big E, people like the New Day, the members of the New Day exist, and that the locker room is getting better. It's not just the boys. It's, this is a community of guys who see each other in real life, and realize what they can do with their voices because they are on television. So it feels like things are, getting more positive, and I feel like Big E is a symbolic move towards that.
I guess, yeah, I know what you're saying. It just feels like symbols are more of like you could easily make the connection, like connecting the dots between PR moves and symbols, where if there really is change and they realize, the financials don't matter anymore. We're not just trying to show that we're diverse or what have you. We're showing that there's no, we don't tolerate what happened in the past, and we need to show everybody that's coming up for the future that if you even think that you're powerful enough to get away with this, you can't. Because even though we love Big E, there's a lot of guys who could become champion. I
don't want to excuse WWE at all. I just want Undertaker to shut the fuck up because he's wrong.
Yeah, that too. So yeah, I guess we could wrap this up and we go into something a little bit more fun. Because this, I mean, nobody's gonna. Well, you know what? I'll take that back. There have been people on Twitter that have been trying to argue about this not being terrible, or that we've known about it for how many years. But
I would like to see if WWE got an early draft of this, and this is why they let Ric Flair go.
I mean,
there must have been somebody who let them know.
Yeah. That would not shock me. That was one of the first thoughts that I had, and people making the comment like, "Wow, good thing WWE got rid of Ric Flair before." No, don't remove WWE from this. Of course, like, one of the things JR did that, he took the blame for this, but he also didn't fail to mention that Vince McMahon could totally have done something too. So, if you didn't catch that part, I can't help you. Alrighty, Mike, like I said, trying to find some.
We had to get off that story because this was a really good week of wrestling. It just Dark Side of the Ring did such a fantastic job of telling the story. Holy God.
Yeah, if you guys aren't aware of the plane ride from hell, or what that story really is, JR titled it that himself. Like it's It's like just a story that goes around pro wrestling. Go watch this episode. You can find it on YouTube. Just, Plane Ride from Hell, Dark Side of the Ring. I guess educate yourself on who your heroes are. I don't think any of those guys, if I took a look at my heroes, none of them have ever checked one of those boxes. So not to say I'm not like, oh, good for me. I'm just take a look at these guys and be a little bit smarter with who you're picking as your hero. And if we do learn that they're pieces of shit, flush them down the toilet and get rid of them. All right.
Well, let's pivot away from this because we need a little reboot here. Man, hot take.
Okay. I had a whole other. I had my segment ready to go. Give me one sec. That's not how. I know. Hey, you gotta.
Must be crawling on my belly trying to get Matt in the corner, and FTR must have knocked him off the apron. Those bastards! Let Matt get back up there for that hot tag. Hey now, that's what I'm talking about, baby. Matt, Rosario Dawson was kind of getting into it with Malachi Black this week. And Matt, which Rosario Dawson character would you like to see her wrestle as? I got Ashoka from Star Wars. Matt, I got
Is
Gail.
Is it Ashoka or Ahsoka?
I'm going Ashoka. We got an H in there. Matt, Gail from Sin City. Abernathy from Death Proof, or she's been all over DC cartoons, voicing Catwoman in I think coming out soon. But she's also got a lot of credits as Wonder Woman. Matt, any of those four, who you got?
Yeah, I'll go with Ahsoka. She's probably the one I know best, so I'm a huge fan of that character already. But I don't really need Rosario Dawson anyway. I'm good. Yeah, if you're a big fan of what is that called, the Go Big Show?
Yeah.
The next thing we're gonna see is Burt Kreischer on our TVs, and nobody needs that.
Oh God.
So,
yeah, I would like to see him take a knife edge chop in the belly. Matt, give me Abernathy from Death Proof because of the four, she's the only one without superpowers. But she did have a hell of a Seth Rollins curb stomp. So give me Abernathy all day.
Oh, that's true. That's a good pick. All right,
Matt,
so
hit us with Nona here.
Yeah, if you guys haven't seen this yet, I hope that if you have Disney Plus, you're going to go check this out. Just if you take a look at the main character on the right-hand side here for Nona, for anybody watching on YouTube, her shirt says Smashdown. Now, this is a short, so I don't want to give too much away, but this is pretty much, you've got a huge pro wrestling fan. And you can see on the poster here we're showing on YouTube, she's staring at her granddaughter, sneering a little bit because you could tell she's a little bit frustrated. So this is something that surprised me to actually, like, in the same morning, I watched Dark Side of the Ring and then Nona, and both are completely.
I'm glad you watched them in that order.
Spectrum. Yeah, completely different sides of the spectrum, and both involving pro wrestling. And it really helped too that whoever put the animations together for that little girl. I mean, I was looking at it and seeing my daughter. So
here we go.
Adorable thing I've ever seen. Sorry, I love my daughter. I apologize. I feel like I got to apologize to Mike.
Thank you. Yeah, that's what we wanted.
Yeah.
All right.
It's such a bummer for Mike to hear that I love my daughter. I guess I don't know. All right. But yeah, guys, if you're fully aware of what Dark Side of the Ring was, or you watched it and you want to feel better, you want to have a nice little warm tummy and enjoy some wrestling content, feel good, go watch Nona. Spark Shorts on Disney Plus.
I thought if you wanted the butterflies in your tummy, you'd watch Dexter Lumis and Indy Hartwell get married. Oh
yeah, that was actually a fantastic segment, Mike. I did tweet out. So yeah, let's talk about NXT 2.0 because I feel like some aspects of it people were very lenient on, and other aspects that were way too harsh. But one thing we could all agree on was that Dexter Lumis and Indy Hartwell's wedding is an A+ segment. It is one of the best comedy segments in pro wrestling history. I have no problem saying that. And the swerve, which I love the interpretation of this, the swerve is that the wedding went through with no problems. the big pops, Dexter Loomis saying "I do," showing off the little hatchet he has in his jacket. All beautiful moments. Anything Johnny Gargano did, just it first was extremely annoying and cringy, but he just kept being Johnny Gargano, or like this new version of super annoying Johnny Gargano, and then it just became, oh, there he goes again, and it was gold. It was comedy gold for pro wrestling. You can't expect The Office here. You're not going to see Rick and Morty level of comedy, but for pro wrestling, this is an A this is an A+ comedy segment. But what I did tweet out the next morning was this should be sobering for anybody that like too harshly will judge pro wrestling or get too upset about it. Get very mad at Tommy Dreamer, Ric Flair, Vince McMahon, all of those sacks of shit. Fuck them. But NXT 2.0, don't get too mad because Mike's segment of the night was a fucking comedy segment about a potential murderer marrying the love of his life, and his character being like a murderer, I guess is what I mean by that. But yeah, like I said, should be very sobering for anybody that gets very upset or sends death threats to Sean Ross Sapp and his family. I couldn't believe that, but this is what we're watching, everyone. It's a silly like variety show. We label it as pro wrestling, but it's a silly variety show. That's what we're watching, and it's fun and it's cute. Just stop being pieces of shit. It goes, also Ric Flair, stop being a fucking piece of shit. All right. But NXT 2.0, Mike.
Yeah.
Big bugaboo at the start of the show was how bright and colorful it was. Mike, I get it. Something's new and different. I think we were all pretty upset. And I think more people should have been upset with like the booking decisions and what happened, like the difference between 2 different weeks of NXT and how different it felt. That is something I can get on board with, of somebody being like, wow, this is a completely different show. These matches are booked completely differently. I don't think this is for me. I might leave. If you said that, I can have that conversation. But the same people that will post pictures of all the indie shows that they go to and how cool they are, Mike, that is the vibe I got from NXT 2.0. If anybody hadn't seen it yet, I mean, you're talking about a brightened up room where you can see the rafters, white walls. Sure, they're painted with a light and they're like blue and red and yellow and what have you. But for the most part, you're looking at, like a white cinder block wall of a gymnasium. That's right, Mike. It just looks like we're in a brightly lit gymnasium, which is where we see all of our indie pro wrestling shows. So if there's anything that should have been sobering was when I pointed that out on Twitter, and a lot of people just either they got more mad at me or they kind of tapped out and they're like, yeah, I guess that's a good point. They kind of went for the indie wrestling look and just kind of classed it up or like took it up a level. So I felt like that was a lot of the complaints, was the look of it. But again, I still ask anybody to watch an episode or rewatch the episode or watch the next episode and realize that I think they're going for something that's more inviting. Of course, the cage look was terrible. Look, like you were going into a dungeon. This brightly lit, everybody should feel super safe in that building, unlike before. But on top of that, I really do think they're selling an indie wrestling vibe. And if they want to steal that and they accidentally walked into that, I can go for it because it's a good idea. That's how you should be selling NXT wrestling. But Mike, I mean, if you ask me to judge all those matches, I'd put a lot of D's on top of my grades for them if anybody ever cared to ask, because they didn't do a lot to tell great stories. They gave, it looked like they were just giving people opportunities in the ring. And what we were warned was that this was supposed to be, skewing more development and less trying to compete with like AEW Dynamite. So that's what it felt like I was watching. and
Yeah.
I didn't have a lot of care and love for the wrestlers I was seeing. So it just from that aspect, I this just might not be for me. And a lot of people liked it. They liked the
Yeah.
matches, and I think
I think that the aesthetic that is woo. We give WWE creative grief all the time, but man, their production value is outstanding because if the goal was to like just minimalize and let's just make this look like our version of indie wrestling, man, they hit a home run. I'm pulling again from Big E, but he was talking about when he sets himself apart and gets to be himself. He looks around and 2/3 of the roster are wearing black or red, and they got smoke coming out for their entrance. So for NXT to keep doubling down on we're going to be black and gold, and then we're going to be dark and scary. We're going to have cages, and then it felt claustrophobic. This feels like an open environment. It feels inviting. It feels fresh. It feels like this is, the focus is on this young talent, not on creating this environment. Because you're not distracted by all the chain link fence and glass pounding. It didn't work. So I think it's aesthetically a really good start. And then, you just got to be patient if they're going to, start throwing all these new wrestlers out there, and we got to kind of learn who they are. They have to learn who they are. I think it's something to be optimistic about. I guess, I don't know. I guess we'll kind of let it pan out, but the one thing that just cracked me up so much was Braun Breaker. Rex Steiner. He debuted and he got to beat my beloved LA Knight, who seems, I don't know, destined to be the Ty Dillinger of that show. I don't know if he's ever going to be champ like he should be.
Man, I'll tell you this, right? He is 1,000 times more charismatic and interesting.
He seems so overqualified. He seems so overqualified for what they're doing with him.
He should be on the main roster. He's good to go. Like, ship him out.
He figured it out. Yeah, he's not a prospect anymore. But it cracked me up that everybody was really mad about this Braun Breaker name, and I was pretty upset about LA Knight. I didn't know how you went from Eli Drake to LA Knight, and I get that they're both 3 syllables, but I don't know. LA Knight wasn't feeling it. But I'm getting on board. So I think maybe Braun Breaker will get there too. Matt, last little bit here. Is there anything that you want? What's the thing you want to see most out of NXT 2.0?
I guess where do you go with Dexter and Indy? Because, honestly, it got the entire pro wrestling world to turn their head and kind of, this can be fun still. So I'm trying to figure out, how do you take advantage of everybody falling in love with the two of them? I think this would be, and I think this is way out of right or left field, whatever the default is supposed to be for that turn of phrase. I think this would be a good opportunity to create a mixed gender division and to keep those two together and have them dominate. There's a lot of opportunities. I think if they have as many development talents as they say, I think this would be a good way to start the division, see how it can go, and trying to tell stories and have this be development for creative as well. But for NXT 2.0, I had what I wanted out of NXT, and last week we heard Mick Foley talking about, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and it's being fixed a second time, Mike. Because it wasn't broken when it was an hour-long, fucking amazing show on the WWE network. And then they tried to fix it, make it a 2-hour-long show, and now they're double fixing it. You know what I'd really like, Mike? I'd like my 1-hour shows to stay 1 hour, which I'm not going to get next week with my new favorite AEW show.
I know. Ultimately, that card's going to be really stacked, though. They're trying to do, I know, it should be an hour, but I would say, Matt, the one thing I want WWE not to double down, but to triple down on this new bingo hall aesthetic, and I think that Cameron Grimes should start playing bingo with people in the crowd in between matches. Give me a bingo ball cage dispenser machine thing.
Yeah,
I don't know what those are called. Raffle drums?
Yeah.
All right, we're going with raffle drums. Yeah, let's just go through AEW this week. We didn't give them a ton of time because we had so many crazy things for WWE. Adam Cole got his first AEW match against Frankie Kazarian. Matt, does I don't know. What do you think of that match? Did you get to watch it?
Oh yeah, no, I did because that was the first match of the night. Yeah, that was like one of the only segments I think I watched start to finish. It was more about getting an entrance, right? That was what it was all about, and I think he got the crowd excited, and it was fine.
I gotta say,
I'm watching it.
Of all these ex WWE NXT guys, I think the Adam Cole. I love the the boom. I love the Bebe, but man, that story time thing. Please, we got to stop doing that. Do people really pop for story time, boys and girls? It's rare. It's never been a story. It's usually like a sentence or two. This is a terrible bedtime story. Not a fan. I also wanted to bring up we got NXT 2.0, but we also got AEW 2.0. They got to go to war against Mox and our boy Eddie Kingston. I just love the 2.0s getting the rub from arguably my favorite tag team in the last couple of years. And my cat found another rock, so excuse his shenanigans here.
Fun to listen to for a second.
Can I say the one match I was really sad about was Jade Cargill against Layla Hirsch?
Yeah.
Jesus, dude. He's just fucking flying around. This for me.
He wants us to wrap up.
He said, I hope it's not a piece of cat litter. I think it's a rock. Yeah, this for me was Regal and Goldberg because Jade looked really green. I would put her against so many women in the division, but I just wouldn't put her against Layla Hirsch, who's like a legitimate fighter. And even though Jade has, like 9 inches on Hirsch, Hirsch still had bigger quads because she's just like a little cannonball of fury. I'm glad that Jade's getting some more matches, but man, I would have punted on the Hirsch matchup.
Yeah, you mentioned that to me before, so I took a look, and I agree. I don't know if the Goldberg William Regal it's a little harsh because that is infamous for being an ugly, hideous match, which I wouldn't say this was ugly or hideous. I think it's just something. I don't know.
I think just because of the technician versus somebody who's going to be a powerhouse, and the powerhouse is still kind of wrestling tentatively because she wants to be safe. But it's just not super great.
Yeah,
so,
no,
now.
That's actually a great way to put like what the problem was with that match. And when she did try to go for power, it looked clunky. I guess. Something to be worked out, hopefully, and
she's definitely going to. Yeah, she's definitely going to get there. Just wasn't there that night. But man, Darby Allin and Shawn Spears. Darby, if that dude was like 6 inches taller, he would be like the biggest wrestler on the planet. And
well, that's not true. He'd need like another foot to be the biggest,
and like 80 pounds. But man, that guy, he CM Punk said it. If I was 12 years old, that would be my favorite wrestler. That story they told with the disrespect to the face paint and taking the towel to it, and then they took the towel to Sting later.
I'm gonna put you on mute in a second. Jesus Christ.
Oh, the cat?
Yeah.
Jesus, he found another rock. Hold on. Cut it out, you piece of crap. Get out of here.
Yeah, I mean, my thoughts on Darby while Mike is screwing around and playing with his cat. I mean, I could probably go where the direction that Mike was going with Darby, but I mean, this guy is everything that I think we loved about like growing up and watching pro wrestling and being a part of the generation that grew up with the Attitude Era, and getting very far away from how we started this show. But the guys that would come in week in week out during the Attitude Era that we fell in love with, and I always bring up this tag team, and it just so happens that they have face paint. But it's Mosh and Thrasher for me were one of the most underrated tag teams because they were there every single week, and you got to rock out with them. Clearly, Darby has way more talent than those two did. Sorry, Mosh and Thrasher. But like that's the thing I fall in love with these guys that come in week after week, and there's not this excuse of why they're not in the ring, and when they are in the ring, they're putting on bangers. It just happened to be that they were a couple of headbangers, and Darby Allin is just putting on perfect matches every time.
Yeah, I know that we have Japanese strong style, we have British strong style. I gotta say that it really feels like Darby's doing Dolph Ziggler strong style, where you just bump like a motherfucker for 20 minutes every time you get in the ring. And he's one of those guys that, we're really getting enamored with, like Ilya Dragunov.
Yeah.
Where it just feels like, oh, right, this hurts. Some wrestlers kind of make you forget that. I'm looking at you, Young Bucks. And Darby reminds me, oh yeah, that's a real human body hitting steel and getting slammed onto a piece of wood with just a little bit of yoga mat on top of it. Oh yeah, that hurts. So I just love the realism that he brings to the matches. And I guess the last segment I just wanted to bring up because I didn't think that we would get Brian Pillman Jr. over, at least not in this capacity. But man, he comes out rocking a massive mullet. He's got a brand new shirt with a big tiger on it. Everybody knows I'm Tiger Boy. And MJF is getting this storyline over. As funny as he is, he's still getting nuclear heat, and he's getting people to care about Pillman Jr. And he's not really gotten that opportunity at all. And I'm just really happy for this story. I'm happy to see it kind of get its culmination, or maybe just the first chapter when they do the Grand Slam next week. Especially MJF. Woo! We're looking up to talk to Brian Pillman Sr. and then remembering, oh yeah, and then he starts looking down, obviously alluding to Brian Pillman being in hell, which nice little touch there by one of the masters of the microphone.
Yeah. I mean, that stuff has been great. I really liked in Cincinnati, Pillman he was so jacked to be in his hometown. He looked nervous, which is incredible for a guy that just does this for a living and runs through indie shows every day, if not every day, certainly every weekend. And he was so jacked for that storyline and to be out there with his family. That was beautiful. That was the poetry and beauty of pro wrestling when you really step into like the realism side of it. All right, we got to do Grand Slam here real quick because we're hitting that hour. We just did way too much Dynamite, I would say.
Let's do this. Just sprint through the card and then the match you're most excited about.
Yeah. Is that me? Am I sprinting through the card? Mike, you sprint through the card. This is
all right. We got FTR versus Darby Allin and Sting, Britt Baker versus Ruby Soho, and this is going to be a women's championship match. Pretty pumped for that. Eddie Kingston and Jon Moxley versus Lance Archer and Suzuki. Oh my God, there's going to be some Walter-sized slaps on that one. Matt MJF, as we just mentioned, going against Brian Pillman Jr. They advertised a CM Punk live interview. I don't know.
They're gonna introduce. Yeah, they'll get him ready.
They're just gonna have Powerhouse Hobbs come in and crash the party. Cody Rhodes getting his rematch against Malachi Black. Please don't let Cody win. And of course, Matt. And what they have not said is a championship match: Bryan Danielson versus Kenny Omega. Man, obviously the most exciting one here is Bryan Danielson wrestling on AEW against Kenny Omega. And there's no title on the line, so this smells like a victory for old Bryan.
I don't know. Does Bryan really come into AEW and beat, who's arguably the best wrestler in pro wrestling?
You guys, you overthought it, last pay-per-view, and you're like, well, CM Punk's got to get over Darby Allin. I'm like, no. Darby's going to get over just by being in the ring. Man, Bryan Danielson is here. He's got to win his first match. There's no title on the line. This is easy peasy. 1, 2, 3 Z.
CM Punk thing, both. Never mind.
No, I booked him to win, and he said that he was going to lose to try and get over Darby.
Oh,
I just want you to remember you were wrong. Just like you are here. Yeah, Bryan Danielson's going to win all day.
Sure. I guess I would take Kenny in that one. I think there's too many variables that can get thrown in, especially this not being a title match. I think they can have a lot of fun at the end. So I think this gets overbooked and gets silly, which is why the match, I'm like, we're going to have fun in the middle, beginning in the middle, and then the end I feel like is going to turn into another convoluted Kenny Omega finish, which I'm just going to throw it out there. We've gotten a lot of those recently with, especially with the Christian matches and the Christian feud. But I got
a hot take question for you on this one too.
Oh boy. Here we go. Told you to put it in the private chat, and then it'll be hot and juicy.
Man, it goes without saying that the longest match at the Grand Slam is going to be Bryan versus Omega. What's the second longest match on this card? What's going to get the second most amount of TV time?
I really want Malachi to squash Cody. It's probably going to be. It's either the Lance Archer and Minoru Suzuki versus Kingston and Moxley, or it's Britt Baker and Ruby Soho, which would be my pick for the match I'm most excited for, because I'm very prepared for a lot of shenanigans in the Danielson Kenny Omega match.
I think that Kingston and Mox will probably pull the curtain, and that'll probably be the second longest one. And then the other matches will kind of pepper it in. That's just my opinion. But and then real quick, we'll just do the Rampage card because it's so incredible. Adam Cole and the Young Bucks versus Christian Cage and Jurassic Express. Men of the Year versus Jericho and Jack Hager. And then CM Punk versus Powerhouse. I got to say the one, for me, easily most excited about is Punk versus Powerhouse. We've been talking about Hobbs for a while. He's also one of the guys who reached out to Big E. Big E's a big fan of Hobbs. And Hobbs, I don't know. They haven't really given him anything to chew on. And I'm hoping that Punk kind of, saw this guy in the locker room and said, yeah, let's get in the ring together. Let's make something work. And I'm excited to see where this goes. This is the one I'm looking forward to on Friday.
Yeah, samesies, but I guess I'll sit here and say Super Click is fighting Mike. Woo! Can't wait. I
slap those thighs.
I mean, the interesting part of this for me, I think, is Adam Cole getting to jump, from Red Dragon over to the Young Bucks, which arguably in the indie scene, I would say over the last 15 years, two of the top 5 tag teams on the indie side. 2 tag teams I've been lucky enough to watch in Ring of Honor, which is super fun. And Adam Cole has had himself aligned with both. So it'll be fun to see. I think there's a different dynamic of the Adam Cole character between him being a part of the Elite and him leading the Undisputed Era. So that dynamic for Cole is definitely going to change. And I think lends to the idea that, I think we'll slowly see things teased out, and I think he's going to try and fight the Elite from the inside for, the betterment of storytelling and our viewing enjoyment. But this match is happening. It'll be fun. We love Jurassic Express. What did I call them a few weeks ago? Something dumb.
I think you call them Jungle Express.
Oh, that's right, Jungle Express, because their song was the Jungle. Never mind. I don't need to explain that again. But yeah, I'm still looking for more. I'm looking forward to the CM Punk match with Powerhouse more than anything else going on Rampage. But it's still going to be a fun show. So yeah, that's that, right?
I think that's it.
Yeah, and fuck the 2-hour Rampage. What the fuck are we doing? Come on, this is my favorite show. It's already jumping the shark with 2 hours here. Come on, it's bullshit. I don't want to stay up late.
It won't happen all the time. It'll be a one-off. Don't worry.
No, I know. I'm just saying. No, it's got to make it longer. God damn it, make it shorter. Give me half-hour wrestling shows. Come on, 15 minutes. Give me a TikTok of pro wrestling. I'd be over the moon with just a couple of super kicks and a pin. Go to bed. It's like 8:15. I got kids, man. All right, let's wrap it up. Everybody, thanks for tuning in.
Heath Slater?
Yeah, exactly. Thanks for tuning in. Find us at BOD Podcast on Twitter, brothersofdiscussion.com, BODpodcast.com if you guys want to check out the shop and help support the show. Anybody that accidentally fell in and watched because you're a Red Wings fan and you used to like pro wrestling or you're kind of a casual fan, stick around. Watch the full episode. Get to know what's going on in WWE and AEW, and ignore the, like the dark side of the ring stuff is just going to maybe fuel the flames of not coming back into pro wrestling. But, ignore that feeling and come back and enjoy this wrestling show. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. And I guess have a good one.
Sounds good to me.